Hello, everyone. My name is Liz, and you are listening to the Crime All Over podcast, where we talk about true crime, mysteries, and the unexplained. Today, I wanted to talk about a crime that did not get as much of attention as others did, especially later in life. I'm talking about the disappearance of Asha Degree. Some may have heard about it, especially if you're into true crime, but I'm into true crime and I've never heard about it. What I found interesting about it is it's kind of bizarre. I mean, the more you listen and the more you read about it, the more you end up with dead leads, and the updates are even more confusing. Anyway, let's get to it. Aisha Degree was born in August of 1990. She lived in Shelby, North Carolina, with both her parents, Aquila and Harold Degree, and an older brother, only one, by 1 year older. His name is O'Brien. Her mother would describe Aisha as a quiet, shy, and a very well mannered kid. The type of kid that would give you her shirt off her back. Even though Aisha was only 9, Aquila did make Aisha aware of the dangers that lurked from strangers, so she was known to stay within her parents' limits at all times. I mean, her mom said that she would even be cautious anywhere outside since she was terrified of dogs, but at the same time, I read that she was also sheltered. Her parents were very strict. Aquila and Howard restricted their kids from outside influences and communication to strictly only family, church, and school. I've read some negative comments on that part, but in reality, I mean, that's not that bad. She wasn't homeschooled or anything, and she was even able to join a basketball team and see her friends. So, I mean, even so, the Degrees refused to purchase a computer at home. This was linked to Aisha's mom being very well, that there was predators online, and they would lure children. So to avoid this, they didn't have one. And then again, in my opinion, that's not that bad since they did own a TV, so they weren't like cut off from all outside media influences. But both her parents worked full-time jobs, and I have here in my notes that Harold worked 2 full-time jobs. So they were not able to pick up their kids right after school. They did work near their home, and because they were comfortable enough to let Aisha and her brother walk home from school and let themselves in the house until Aquila got home from her job. Even Aquila's mother and sister lived in the same neighborhood, and Howard's mom lived right across the street from them. I don't personally feel okay with that. I wouldn't personally do it with my own kids, but I'm sure their reasoning was they had family around and they were okay with their kids walking home from school. But if they had all this family around, wouldn't one be able to pick up the kids from school? Because that serves the children as a bit of independence. I mean, it's great to have independence, but I just wouldn't. But, anyways, there were full time working parents, and sometimes that happens. On February 12th, Aisha had a basketball game. Even though she was at the game, she wasn't able to play in it because she fouled out. Meaning, when someone does too many fouls in the game, the coach has to sit you out for the rest of the time. Aisha was reported to be the star player, so this really bothered her, and on top of it, her team lost the game. She was reportedly very upset by this, but calmed down enough to watch her brother's basketball game after. The following day, on February 13th, 2000, Aisha, her brother, and some other family members, I read it was her aunt, they headed to church. And after that, they arrived at home, and then the rest of the day was like a typical day. At around 8 p.m., Aisha and her brother headed to bed. A little less than an hour, there's a car accident in the neighborhood and cuts the power out for the whole entire neighborhood. Because of this, Aisha and her brother couldn't take their nightly bath, so their mom decided just to take one the next day, and she would just wake them up earlier in the morning. The power eventually came back on a little after midnight, and Howard, Aisha's dad, came home from his second job, and when he got home, he decided to check up on the kids. When he did, they were both fast asleep. At around 2:30, before heading to bed himself, Harold decided to check on the kids one more time. It's now February 14th, Valentine's Day, which coincidentally is Harold and Aquila's wedding anniversary. The kids were again fast asleep and in bed safe. This is when things turned. O'Brien, Aisha's younger brother, recalls hearing squeaking in the middle of the night from Aisha's bed, but just assumed Aisha was turning to the side or something. Her mother woke up a little before 6 a.m. and went towards the children's room to wake them up for their baths before school. Aquila opened the door, turned on the lights, and announced to them to wake up early and get ready. Instead of getting up, O'Brien, Aisha's brother, called to his mom and said, "Look." Aquila quickly turned her head to the bed and saw that her Aisha wasn't in them. She quickly checked the kid's closet. No Aisha. She searched the house and the cars. Still no Aisha. Aquila informed Harold, and he suggested to call his mom, who lived only across the street from them. Aquila called her sister-in-law, but to no avail. Aisha was not there either. Aquila's panic turned into terror, where she quickly decided to call the police to report her daughter missing. It's now 6:40 a.m. and police arrive at the house. Police dogs quickly arrive as well and try to pick up Aisha's scent. Unfortunately, they couldn't due to the raging storm going on. Aquila herself ran through the neighborhood calling her daughter's name. At 7 a.m., neighbors started waking up and hearing the commotion. They started to come outside and see what was going on. I mean, if you hear your neighbor call out your kid's name and you see the police lights, you want to know what's going on. Word spread fast about Aisha missing. The neighbors quickly helped aid in trying to look for Aquila's daughter, including her family and friends. Now remember, on this day, it was cold, it was wet, and there had just been a storm. And her neighbors and her friends were trying to help her find her daughter. Their family church came to the degrees to help and support them. I mean, everyone came together to try to find this little girl. Even though it was wet, even though it was cold, and really early in the morning, the community came together. At the end of the day, police found a mitten, but Aquila denied it even belonging to Aisha, especially since Aisha didn't pack a jacket or anything regarding the winter wear. The missing case of Aisha was quickly put on the local news, and after the broadcast, people did come forward with critical information. At around 3:45 to 4:15, the day Aisha ran away, a truck driver reportedly seeing her walking south along Highway 18. She was wearing a long-sleeved white shirt and white pants. A motorist also contacted police with information as well. He too saw Aisha walking along Highway 18. He told police he turned his car around 3 times since he thought it was strange that a small child would be out by herself at the hour. He circled 3 times before attempting to speak to her, only for Aisha to run into the woods and disappear. He also confirmed it was indeed raining bad, like a storm, when he spotted her. The county sheriff on the case confirmed the sightings were Aisha, as the descriptions the witnesses gave were consistent with the clothes she was wearing. Both men spotted her on the same highway, walking towards the same direction. The next day, police found candy wrappers in a shed at a local business near the highway, exactly where Aisha had been seen running towards. With it were a pencil, a marker, and a hair bow shaped like Mickey Mouse. The bow was confirmed to be Aisha's. Weirdly enough, there was also a photograph with these items. It was a photo of an African-American girl around Aisha's age, but has not been, even to this day, identified as her. And the police hasn't come out and said anything about it. These items were the only things found during this time. Aquila did confirm that Aisha's favorite jeans were not present in her room. This led people to believe she ran away on her own. So 9,000 man-hours, countless volunteers, posters, flyers, and over 300 tips, there was still no Aisha. 7 days after the initial report of Aisha's disappearance, the search was called off, and the police had to admit they didn't have any leads. Soon after, the FBI and North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation submitted her on their missing children's database. Police did note that typically children over the age of 12 run away, which kind of confused the investigators. There was no real motive. They couldn't find the real reason of her running away, and based on all the personal items that she took with her, they did confirm that she premeditated running away. But again, there was no messed up family or bad schooling or bullying that led police to believe that she was a troubled kid. Aquila believes that the only reason she may have ran away was that she was embarrassed from her team losing the game, and maybe she didn't want to face them. Investigators concluded when she ran away, she either got lost or was abducted. 1 month after the case was announced, Aisha's family went on the Montel Williams show to try to gain more traction on the case. Then the Oprah Winfrey Show and America's Most Wanted did broadcast segments of the missing case, but that's about it. There were some people of interest during the investigation, but none the police ever identified to the public, so for a while it seemed like the case was a dead end. However, more than a year after Aisha's disappearance, her book bag and a few items were found on a construction site off of Highway 18 in Burke County. Now, this was almost literally 30 miles from Aisha's hometown of Shelby. Strangely, the items were found wrapped in plastic bag, like twicely wrapped, like wrapped 2 times. The construction worker who found the bag had claimed that Aisha's name and phone number was on it. So the police did take the items and bring it into forensic, and they haven't shared any of what they found to the public about their testings. They also did not share what was inside the bag for almost 20 years. Which is frustrating, I'm sure, to the family. I mean, I would be. So years do go by and the case is still cold, but here are some of the updates. February of 2015, the FBI did announce that they would reopen the case, which means that the agents, the sheriff's office of investigators, and the state will re-examine files and even interview the witnesses again. The FBI is also announcing a reward for up to 25 grand for any information on her whereabouts or obviously any info on whoever took her. The town community in which Aisha disappeared from is also offering a 20,000 reward on top of that. In May 2016, FBI announced that there was a possible new lead in the case. They state that a witness came forward that may have seen 9-year-old Aisha get into a 1970s dark green Lincoln Continental or a Ford Thunderbird along the route where she was last seen. The descriptions were that they were old cars and one of them had rust that you could see around the wheels. Then in October 2018, almost 20 years after her disappearance, Cleveland County investigators let the public know her book bag contained a New Kids on the Block t-shirt and a Dr. Seuss book that belonged to her school's library, but it was not checked out by her. Her family claims that none of the new items found inside the bag belonged to Aisha. Of course, there were many dead ends to the leads given over the years, and some cruel ones given from prisoners from jail. I mean, there was an inmate that gave like a detailed response on where you could find her body, and then the location ended up being animal bones. The more I see a theme of prisoners calling in to mess with the cases. And up to this day, her case is still cold. But her family hasn't given up hope and they rely on their faith to keep pushing. The family has not stopped looking for their daughter and still to this day advocates for her case. Aquila said that she doesn't wish this on anybody and not even her worst enemy. That's how much the pain is of not knowing where your child is. But during the years after the case went cold, the Degrees felt like the media didn't make their daughter's story really heard like others. Obviously, we know that race does play a part in the national news, and they felt like when others were broadcasted much longer and more wider than her daughter's case, she felt that it was unjust. And to be honest, she's right. Gabby Petito's case was broadcasted for months. Even to this day, it's on the news. And I mean, there were other cases with people of color who were even in domestic violence and they ended up dead, and it didn't really make national news. I didn't even know about Aisha until I was really researching her case, to be honest with you. The cases that are national, that are still talked about, that are still well known, that are made into TV shows and movies, I mean, the kids are Caucasian. So I do understand her frustration on it, and I do agree. So the Degrees family established a scholarship in 2008 in Aisha's name for local students, and every year the family hosts a local walk to raise money in order to continue their search for their daughter. The annual walk starts from their own home to a local building on the Highway 18 where their daughter went missing. Even now, when you enter their town, you can see the billboard driving in. Her case is open, and there's always a possibility she's alive, and there's always a possibility that she may not be. But her family needs that closure, and they need that information on what happened to her. An investigator on the case even said that at this point they were going to hold out hope that she is alive because they haven't found any evidence to state otherwise. The FBI hasn't given the public the full scope of details on the case, but they said over the years they identified people of interest, but many have been cleared. And then they believe that the only way to get this case solved is somebody has to know something. Somebody has to say something. So when that person comes forward, that's when all the missing pieces come together. So, what are my thoughts? I think no. I don't think a 9-year-old would be okay leaving home in a storm by herself unless someone wasn't, influencing her, like prepping her. I think it's very odd that a little girl who's well aware of stranger danger, very shy, um, would be so brazen and just head out to run away in an unknown destination. From what the police and her mom said, it was premeditated. She packed her favorite things, and it was Valentine's Day, so that could also have played a factor. I understand her family was strict and there wasn't really any outside influences, but even at school or at church or a friend knowing a friend, there could have been something. I mean, there's been cases where neighbors have kidnapped and hurt kids, or the possibility it could have been close family members or close friends of the family. In cold cases, anything is possible. And I know that if her family heard that, they think I'm being disrespectful, but I would say that at the same time, I'm just trying to look at all the possibilities and all the angles. In this case, is not a cut and dry one, because if it was, then she would have been found. The Dr. Seuss book that was found in her bag, that's suspicious. If it didn't belong to her, then it wasn't checked out by her, then who did it belong to? Who was it checked out by? The bag and the items were found wrapped twice in a plastic bag, and the t-shirt not belonging to her, like far out where she was spotted. To me, it sounds like another kid's items. It's another victim, and whoever did it was probably safekeeping this stuff like a trophy. Why would she wrap her things and other things that are not hers in a plastic bag twice and bury it? That's extremely odd. Where would she even get these things? Where would she get the plastic bag? A little girl is just walking by, she's wrapping these things and she's burying it, and nobody spots her, nobody sees her, even though people are still looking for her. Obviously, there's more at play here. And it could even be she was meeting a friend. They were both planning on running away together. Something happened, or the friend did something and she just ran home scared. Maybe a parent covered it up. You never know. The police obviously know more than they have shared to the public, which is understandable. The police can't give out all the clues, but at the same time, it's hard not to think of all the options. Another possibility is that her mom was right, that she was upset. She didn't want to face her team after the team lost, and she ran away and she got kidnapped by a stranger who tricked her into getting the car and pretending to be nice. And I'm just going to state it's also weird that the witnesses didn't call 911. They saw a little girl walking down a dark highway at like after 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's cold and it's raining. She just has like basic clothes on. She doesn't have any winter wear, and you're going to go. You're not going to call 911. You're not going to contact police. I think that's suspicious too. But those are just my opinions, and those are just my suspicions after I reviewed the case. You never know. Hopefully more clues will come out, and again, there is a $45,000 reward for any information solving the case. The FBI said you can contact the FBI Charlotte at 704-672-6100 and even contact your local FBI office. I really do want to see this case solved in my lifetime, and someone has to know something. So if anyone has any information, please call so you can please bring peace to this family. Okay, guys, that's it for the story. I will be researching and talking about a whole new case next week. If there's any suggestions on a case that didn't make as much media, or you just want to learn about and listen to it, please comment below and let me know. Also, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell. I also just started an Instagram called Crime All Over, and I'll be putting updates and cases, and I'll be doing a TikTok later this week. Okay, guys, have a safe day. Bye, everyone.